Embark on a journey that takes us on a tour of exotic locations as we touch down on the LA Travel and Adventure Show. And join us at the California Science Center when the Space Shuttle Endeavour prepares for its final and most important mission on this edition of Out and About. There's a rumor that you were one of the people who came up with this concept.
I was, and that was almost 34 years ago that we thought about getting a space shuttle because these programs are always ended at some point. We knew the shuttles would not fly forever. And so we thought about how we might go about getting one, and when the fleet was no longer flying, we were invited to put in a proposal, as were anybody else that wanted to do so, any other institution, and we were fortunate in that NASA gave us Endeavour, which is a flown space shuttle orbiter.
We're at the California Science Center as we go for STAC on another edition of Out and About with Roger Martin. On a recent Sunday evening, the staff and engineers at the California Science Center prepare for countdown of the Space Shuttle Endeavour's final mission, placing the orbiter in an upright position so it can be joined to the shuttle's external fuel tank and solid rocket boosters.
This is the culmination of 6 months of work preparing the full shuttle stack for the future Samuel Oschin Air and Space Center. So we've already got the 2 SRBs in place, which are solid rocket boosters, and we've got the external tank in place. And so now we're getting the Endeavour orbiter. We're going to lift it up and slowly position it in place. We will soft mount it to the external tank, which is currently mounted to the solid rocket boosters in a vertical launch position. To protect it, we're going to build scaffolding around it and cover it with plywood sheets, and then cover that with Kevlar fabric to protect it for the rest of construction, because we had to move this huge artifact in now before we even finish the building. But we need to protect it because the rest of the building needs to be completed.
So you're not just protecting it from rain, snow, or sleet, you're protecting it from all the construction that'll be coming about.
That's right, the dust, the construction, and you just never know on a construction site. It's a bit more dangerous, and this is a priceless artifact.
The many components of this massive undertaking began months in advance, starting with the placement of the solid rocket boosters. The 122-foot orbiter was moved from its home of the past 11 years and transported on a massive moving platform so that it could be joined with the external fuel tank and solid rocket boosters already in place.
Well, actually what we're doing is putting the shuttle together exactly as it was for all 135 launches. This is the only place in the world that there will be a full space shuttle stack, and it's all real hardware. And we're assembling it with the same technique that they used on all launches, with the difference that we're doing it outside here in the middle of a construction site, outside with wind and weather to deal with, and using this huge crane instead of being inside a building at Kennedy Space Center, the Vehicle Assembly Building, where you don't have to worry as much about weather, and you had bridge cranes and the like built in and platforms all over, where we're using scaffolding for our team to get access to all the attach points.
On the evening of the move, we are escorted onto the site of the new Samuel Oschin Air and Space Center, which is still currently under construction. Wearing hard hats and special safety vests, we ascend the stairwells of the construction site to get the best view possible. With the external fuel tank and solid rocket boosters already in place, the construction crew below is dwarfed by the massive components which will make up the final space shuttle stack.
I mean, everything has to be in place, and also with this particular object, the orbiter, you know, the wingspan is 78 feet wide in the wingspan. So if you can imagine, when it's raised up over 200 feet in the air, it's like a sail, so we have to be very careful of the wind. But they've determined it now, and we're going to be raising it now pretty soon, and so the wind is down, and they feel they can do that.
So why wait, right?
Yes, the only reason they wait is for the wind. That's the only reason. So as soon as the wind is not a problem, they go.
Endeavour's previous home was the Samuel Oschin Pavilion, which encompassed 18,000 square feet of space within the California Science Center. And, like the previous exhibit, the current space that is being constructed around the completed stack is being made possible by the same generous benefactor.
Sam was a very quiet man, no splash around him, very quiet, very private. And here I'm doing this, but this is my husband's legacy. It's everything he loved rolled into one, and that's why I did it. Astronomy, children, math, science, inspiration, exploration. My husband did all sorts of crazy, crazy trips. He would have gone into space if he had the opportunity, but we weren't doing that in those years. I just don't want my husband forgotten. And so when I had the opportunity to do this through the foundation, I said, that's it, I'm going to do this. There will never be another shuttle like the in-launch position not going into space. It'll never happen again.
It's unique. And the wonderful thing is that I don't think this was planned, but the 3 remaining shuttles are all displayed in different phases of flight. So we have Discovery at the Smithsonian on its landing gear as if it just landed. We have Atlantis down at the Cape as if it's up in space. It's on an angle with the doors open and as if it's on orbit. And then here we have Endeavour in the launch position. It's the only place that you'll see a space shuttle stacked to the orange tank and to the solid rocket boosters, just like it was when we launched from the launch pad in Florida. I think it's the most spectacular of all the 3 configurations. When you walk right up to it, it's just overwhelming, the magnitude of it. And it just reminds me of walking out to the launch pad when we flew it.
What was it like for you?
No, it wasn't like a typical day at the office, you know. It was a pretty exciting launch, and it shakes a lot, it makes a lot of noise. It's a pretty big adrenaline rush. It's pretty exciting.
As the moments count down to the lowering of the orbiter, we are treated to a simple and informative demonstration.
Awesome.
Using toy models of the shuttle and crane, museum representatives run us through basic steps, which include raising the Endeavour into a vertical position and slowly lowering it into place. Of course, it's a bit more complicated, and serious precautions are employed to be sure it can be completed safely and efficiently.
It's a tight fit, and it's a challenging lift and lowering it and getting everything attached, and everything's got to be exactly right. Honestly, the harder one in terms of threading a needle was this external tank, where if you watched that coming in 2 weeks ago, there was about an inch on either side of it between the external tank and the solid rocket boosters. And you look at the size of that thing, and lowering it down between those two was an amazing sight, and incredible work by the whole crew.
Overseeing the shuttle move is a very delicate operation, and luckily we have people who worked on the shuttle project, so they know what they're doing. So we really have a great established crew, so everything will go smoothly.
After hours of anticipation, the moment finally arrives as we gaze upon the shuttle being lowered slowly into place. With all eyes trained on the massive 122-foot orbiter, the crane's capable technicians lower it, stopping occasionally to monitor their progress. As it inches closer, we see Endeavour enveloped in a protective white plastic coating, which we are able to get a better look at when we revisit the shuttle a few days later in the daylight.
It's about a 4 mil thick piece of plastic not unlike the plastic you would put in a trash can liner for your garbage cans, but it's sensitive to heat treatment. So if you have just heat over it, like a torch or something like that, it just shrinks to conform to the shape of the orbiter.
Now, I imagine that's going to be protecting itself from all the manufacturing, the organization that takes place here over the next year or two or whatever it will be. Will there be something other than the plastic on there?
Yeah, the plastic is there, but around the plastic, we're going to completely build out that scaffolding that you see, and then we're going to put a plywood sheath around that, and then a Kevlar over protection around that. So that gives us a chance to maximize the protection for the orbiter, and it keeps the dust out, because the construction dust is just, it just has a mind of its own. It gets every place. There's nothing you can do to prevent it.
Ken, how do you feel about the way things have been going so far?
I couldn't be more pleased with the way things have gone. We had a super team come up from Texas and from Florida to help us. These are people who, between them, there were about a dozen of them, have assembled 135 space shuttle stacks and been present at 135 launches, so they really knew what they were doing.
In its final display position, Endeavour seems to defy gravity. With only 3 bipods connecting the shuttle to the external fuel tank, it is attached in the same 3 places that it would have been for launch. And it is this position that will greet visitors when the Samuel Oschin Air and Space Center is open.
The final Samuel Oschin Air and Space Center will be a 200,000 square foot expansion of the existing Science Center, and it will double our exhibition space, which is really wonderful. It will include about 100 new historic artifacts. It will include about 100 new hands-on exhibitions, and people will be able to explore the science and engineering of air and spaceflight through 3 thematic sections. One will be aeronautics, so we'll look at aeronautics from the beginning of flight through commercial travel, air travel, to modern improvements in flight. The second section is all about space flight and exploring the universe. And the third section is about the space shuttle. And of course, the highlight of that section, in addition to other artifacts and hands-on exhibits, will be the full shuttle stack.
So it's very exciting. I can't wait for the time to go quickly when we open the building. And we started in 12. The culmination is in 24. Where are we? 24 now. So it's been an incredible journey for the orbiter.
It's been many years to get here, a lot of planning, a lot of fundraising, a lot of effort, and a lot of help and support by really talented, skilled people who've worked on the shuttle program for most of their careers and have come out to help us assemble the shuttle stack.
The purpose of this center it's interesting because as we're developing those exhibits, we see that the history of air and space exploration is filled with people who create these amazing machines. And it's all based on science, and it's driven by their curiosity and their imagination and their sense of purpose. And so we'll be able to tell these stories in the new Samuel Oschin Air and Space Center, and we hope inspire people to have a love for science learning and inspire their curiosity for whatever they're doing.
Well, NASA is putting a lot of effort into the Artemis program with the SLS rocket and the Orion capsule that's going to take our astronauts. And then to land on the moon, on the surface of the moon, they're going to need starships. So they're actually going to meet up with the Starship upper stage and use it as a descent module and land on the moon. And hopefully we're single-digit years away from that now, and I can't wait to see Americans walking on the moon again. That's going to be fantastic.
When we return, we'll tour the globe to explore the many options that are available to adventurous travelers. Stay with us as the Los Angeles Travel and Adventure Show highlights the latest vacation getaways when Out and About continues.